Good morning and welcome to your Financial Empower Hour. This is Jason Cryderman with Great Lakes Investment Advisors. And here we are on Monday morning, Mr. Tony Shore. As we record, it's Monday morning. It is February 9th. It's the day after what I would have to call one of the first half boringest first halves in a Super Bowl ever. Now, I don't know what you think, Tony, and I don't know what our listeners think, but thinking back to how that game went last night, and I wanted the Seattle Seahawks to win.
Sure.
The whole New England thing and the Patriots, been there so many times, had so much
12.
success. And and Seattle, just love that. And of course, Kenneth Walker Jr. played for Michigan State, awesome running back. So now
amazing.
He's on. K9 is on, the Seahawks. He won the MVP, first MSU football player to ever win a Super Bowl MVP. So that's pretty cool. But I was thinking about it this morning on my way into work. I'm thinking, man, that was probably the boringest first half, maybe the first three quarters of football. And then the second half, especially the fourth quarter, things got turned up a little bit. I know there was some controversy depending on, where you watch the game and what halftime show you decided to watch and
sure.
all that good stuff. But Tony, my team, like I said, I wanted the Seahawks. They came out on top. What did you guys do for the Super Bowl? Did you watch the game? Did you go anywhere? Did your team come out on top? What is your first impression? What is your takes now after we're settling into the Super Bowl hangovers?
Well, I'll tell you what, Jason, I didn't have a horse in the race, but I was rooting for Seattle just because the Patriots have been there so many times.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I really thought Seattle would win. And I told everybody I know before the Super Bowl, weeks before, once we knew which teams were going to be in there, I told everybody I know Seattle's going to win, and it will be won by their defense. Because Seattle had the number one defense in the league. I watched them all season. A friend of mine is a huge Seahawks fan.
Okay.
The guy who was the best man at my wedding. So if they're on and I don't have a horse in the race, I root for Seattle anyway. Yeah. But I knew their defense would win that game, and their defense did. And if you like defensive games, it was good. I think Walker, obviously the best person on either offense was Walker. Yeah. I mean, by a long shot. I mean, he's the only one that had big plays in the whole.
Yeah, he was definitely a standout.
He was the only one on that field that had big offensive plays.
Yep.
Now, on the defense, I do believe the defense should have won MVP. They should have given the MVP. I know they want to pick one person, but they should have given it to the Seattle defense because the Seattle defense won the game.
They really did. I mean, Seattle's defense, no doubt. And now I say, defense wins championships. There's absolutely no doubt. And when you look at really the pressure in the rush, I mean, most of the plays defensively was a four-man rush. Every once in a while, they'd throw in a fifth or sixth guy or, some blitzes. But when you're talking about a four-man rush up front and they were still able to get that much pressure in the backfield that fast on New England, that defensive line, those line, I mean, they are just tough. They are so good, so fast.
And even the backfield, even the safeties and the pass protection was good.
Oh, it was amazing. Well, I mean,
yeah. The Patriots, and I thought New England's defense did a good job too, shutting down. I mean, they held Seattle to. Seattle's got some weapons like Walker, and they held them to field goals for the most part, which is impressive on one side, but on the other, it's like. When it came down to it,
boring, right? I mean, but you're right. It's very
super boring. You're right. That was a tough game to watch. Really boring.
It was definitely a battle of defenses coming into I think it was maybe the second, probably in the third quarter, beginning or end of the third quarter. I looked over at my wife, Amy, and I said, I think the MVP is probably going to be the field goal kicker. Because their field goal kicker had already had 4, if not 5 field goals at that point. And
5 field goals and made all the extra points, the most in any Super Bowl. No field goal kickers ever kicked 5 field goals in a Super Bowl.
That's something. It's crazy.
And his overall points scored for the year is better than most offensive players.
Yeah,
he's really good. Their kicker, their running back, and their defense were the team. and they could not be beat yesterday or
Well,
on Super Bowl Sunday.
yeah, I mean,
So,
think about what you just said right there, right? You said the kicker, which is special teams. So special
yeah,
teams won the game. The running back, offense. So their offense won the game. And you said their defense. Well, that's defense won the game. So between offense, defense, and special teams, that's how you win. And it was obviously last night that Seattle had the
yeah.
better team on the field in all
Oh,
three of
yeah.
those categories. So yeah, I mean, it was a overall at the end of the game, decent Super Bowl, but I was kind of I got tired during the game. I just think
Yeah,
because
me
it was
too.
so boring in the first half, and
Yeah, it wasn't my best overall. The overall Super Bowl wasn't my favorite, but there were some highlights. Usually I like watching the ads. There weren't that many really great
no,
ads that
I
made me
I
laugh
agree.
out
I
loud. Or
wasn't that impressed with the ads either.
no, me either. I
But
did like
I think I felt that way for the last few years. Seems to me
Yeah, they've went downhill the last
yeah.
few years. I would
Mhm.
agree. I would agree. Used to be ads that would just blow you away. Like,
That
oh
was some
my
of the
gosh.
reasons a lot of people watch the Super Bowl was just for the ad.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think the ad agencies out there need to get more creative, and that's coming from a guy who's has a degree in marketing and have been involved in ads, at least especially on the radio side, ad campaigns. But they need to be more creative. There were a couple. I think the Budweiser Clydesdale ad with the eagle. That's a beautiful ad.
That's a
Uh,
beautiful ad.
I mean, that's
Beautiful
just
ad.
that's you can't go wrong. Even if you're not a beer drinker, that ad was beautiful. And I thought the one with all
Oh,
the
yeah, I mean, just
sitcom
the
stars that was funny. All the old sitcom stars, like they had Cheers, Seinfeld,
and
Friends.
I missed that. I had missed that
Oh,
one.
that was
Actually,
a good one.
buddy of mine messaged me
Yeah,
probably I don't know, just not long after that commercial came on. He's like, "Hey, did you see that commercial?" And I missed it. I don't know if I jumped up to run to the bathroom, what have you, but I didn't see
sure.
that one. But I can still catch it on the replays, and I'm sure it's out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I mean, one of the most watched Super Bowls of all time. The viewership was huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's a big event, and I mean going on at the same time and same network as the Olympics.
right.
I mean that's crazy. My
Crazy.
wife and I caught some snippets of different events in the Olympics here and there, and that's pretty fun. The Olympics
Yeah,
are great.
that's pretty amazing. Yeah, so we got to catch a little bit of that as well. I mentioned I didn't get to catch all of the Super Bowl. I was kind of watching on my phone as we were live streaming. Lexi had she's on the Michigan State all girl cheer and stunt team now, as we've talked about before. And so they had a couple games over at Ferris State, which is another college about an hour and a half from us, Tony, over towards the west side of the state. And so we spent a good portion of our afternoon over there at my dad's house. We watched some of the Olympics over there, some of the downhill skiing, some of the figure skating, and then we went off to Ferris. We watched Lexi compete over there. They lost their first game to Alma College, and then they won their second game against Central Michigan. But it was an awesome day. Really cool to see Lexi with the MSU cheer stunt team, and she's a freshman out of 40 girls, and she's one of the big flyers and tumblers, and it just really brings out all of her and her smile and her positivity, and just Amy and I were commenting, looking,
That's
watching
awesome.
her from the stands, is that's our baby girl, and she's happy in her comfort zone right there, and so it makes us as parents very, very proud. And so that's where we spent most of our day. But yeah, we caught some of the Olympics, and then by the time we got home, we were trying to live stream the game as much as we could. Then we got home, we were able to catch the fourth quarter. Then we all went to bed and woke up this morning and back to school and back to work, Tony, and here we are.
Yeah, back at it.
Back
And
again,
I
yeah.
I know you've been really busy helping folks in the community, and you love to hear from our listeners and viewers out there. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube or hearing it elsewhere, I know that on the radio or on one of the podcasting sites, pick up the phone, give Jason a call. I know you love hearing from people, and this is part 3 in our part 3 series about bad retirement advice that's floating around out there. We're talking about the worst retirement advice that a lot of people still follow. And I think it's helpful to know what a lot of people say out there isn't probably right for you. And you hear a lot of things, and we're going to jump into that right after our first break here. But before we do that, let's give our listeners the opportunity to reach out to you. I know you're offering a no charge, no obligation consultation. You and the team there at Great Lakes Investment Advisors really love helping people. How can they get a hold of you, Jason? Give that number.
Yeah, there's really three ways. The number is the easiest, right? You can just stop from anywhere or do it from home, do it from the car off the side of the road or from work, wherever you're at. Call our office here in Midland. It's 989-835-7203. Again, that's 989-835-7203. You can always go on the website any time of day, anywhere you're at. Go check out our website at greatlakes.investmentadvisors.com. A lot of great information there. You can contact us directly. We can call you back and get a phone call scheduled, get an office visit scheduled, whatever works best for you. And then again, we're right here in Midland at 135 Saginaw Road. You can always just pop in and say hi and come meet the team. So give us the call, check out the website, or just pop in and say hi.
All right. Sounds great. And you can always go to the website too, greatlakes.investmentadvisors.com. Again, that's greatlakes.investmentadvisors.com. Now we'll be right back with more of your Financial Empower Hour. And you are listening to your Financial Empower Hour. I am your co-host, Tony Shore. I'm here with our host, Jason Cryderman. Jason, great show today. I love this show because we're talking about some things I hear all the time out there from people, and I know you do as well, floating around. There's bad advice or just rules of thumb that can get you into trouble or be costly mistakes for some people, and we want our listeners and viewers to be able to avoid that. One way is your book. We're going to be giving away some copies at the end of this segment of your book. So I want everybody out there to keep listening for that. But let's jump in with another one. We've covered a lot of them already. There's a lot of rules of thumb about Social Security. People think that'll take care of it. That's all they need to worry about. Some people think, oh, my house is my retirement plan, or my taxes will be lower in retirement. Healthcare is going to be cheaper in retirement. These are all things that just aren't true. And I know we might have left off with this one, but a lot of people don't understand that debt really does matter in retirement. Don't let anyone tell you debt doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And as you mentioned, Tony, this is it's amazing. The things we hear out there, right? The things we either hear that people come to me and I say, well, why are you doing what you're doing today? Why do you own this? Or why are you doing this? Or why is this the situation with your investments or your family or whatever it might be? And the answers I get I used to be surprised. And after 24 years of being a fiduciary advisor, I guess one of those things, knock on wood, but I just don't get very surprised anymore when people tell me, well, that's what my current advisor or that's what my previous advisor told me. Or they say, well, why I'm doing this is because that's what my good buddy Tony's doing, or that's what my good friend Nancy at church is doing, or that's what my fishing buddy or my golfer friend. So they're doing things, or they say, gee, because I did this 25 years ago, so I just figured it's still the same thing to do, right? Like, why make a change? And so again, I'm never surprised on why people give me the answers they give me, but this is our third show on this same topic. And we literally, Tony, we probably could do all 52 weeks of the year. We could probably do on either what we call bad advice or bad information, or maybe even just the wrong information or wrong advice for you and in your family or in this circumstance or in this phase of life that you're in. So there's a lot of it out there, or it's just not appropriate for you because someone else was doing it, whatever it might be. But you're absolutely right. Debt is a big one. And one of the ones that goes kind of hand in hand with debt is inflation. A lot of people say, inflation really doesn't matter and it's not going to hurt me in retirement. Well, it's kind of the same thing as debt, right? Because, I can manage my debt payments. It's not going to hurt me. It's not a big deal. Well, those two things, if you don't plan and prepare for those kind of proactively ahead of time, that, gee, what if they get out of control? What if inflation does rear its ugly head again, like it did back in 2002 or 2022, Tony, when inflation got up in the double digits and nobody was ready for that. Nobody was prepared for that. Thankfully, we were able to control that inflation and bring it back down. But even low inflation can compound significantly over time, and it can cut into the purchasing power almost into half during retirement. So inflation's a big deal. You kind of got to prepare and plan for that. And you're absolutely right, Tony. Debt debt does matter whether you're in retirement or not, right? There's such things maybe as what we can call I'll call it, okay debt, smart debt. If we can leverage certain debt at zero or low interest rates to pay down other debt, if we pay off our credit cards at the end of every month, we're racking up points or miles. That's a very common thing to do, but you got to make sure you're getting that paid off as quickly as you can. Otherwise, those finance charges, those fees, the interest rates you pay, all that stuff over time is going to add up to way, way, way more than the perks and benefits. And it just makes something you bought for $20 costs $30 or $40 over time. And, let's bump that up to a $200 purchase or a $2,000 or $20,000 purchase. And, debt can get you in a lot of trouble, especially when you're in retirement, because Tony, most people in retirement have limited income. They're on fixed incomes. And when you're on a fixed income and you can't just go work an extra shift or work an extra 8 or 10 hours that week to make extra money, it's pretty hard to manage debt that's getting out of control. It does reduce the flexibility. It increases stress during retirement. It increases stress maybe during market downturns, increases stress maybe when interest rates are going down. So debt in retirement is one of those things you want to proactively try to the last 3 to 5 years before retirement. We call it the retirement red zone. You want to try to minimize as much of your debt exposure and debt liabilities absolutely as possible, because going into retirement with big debt hanging over your head, Tony, just not a good comfortable spot to put yourself in.
No, I mean, and you, like you say, most people, no matter how much or how little you have, you're on a fixed income in retirement. So you don't want to drag a lot of debt into retirement with you. And there is good debt and bad debt. Again, another great reason to work with somebody like yourself, right? I mean, that's what you do to help people, is figure out, okay, you've got this situation. What can we do? How can we help you get rid of this before retirement? What's the next thing that you've heard people say a lot that is just not right?
Yeah, I guess bad advice or bad thought, maybe. And we're going to shift gears a little bit, is long-term care. Long-term care is an absolute potentially huge expense. Maybe the largest expense any retirees will ever face in their lifetime is the unfortunate expense of long-term care. And so a lot of people say, I don't need to plan for long-term care. I'm healthy, or I got plenty of money. Well, the unfortunate thing nowadays is we just don't know, right? We just don't know if and when something bad is going to go in our health, and if we are going to need care of some form, either in our home, assisted living, adult daycare, nursing home, whatever that might be, or how long that might be, right? And what the cost might be. Because the reality is long-term care costs are very, very expensive, and they often come very unexpectedly. So those are things, if you can try to plan and prepare ahead of time, you're going to be that much more prepared for when those type of things happen, right? And I've never heard anybody in 24 years I've been a fiduciary advisor, I've never heard anybody say, you know what, Jason, when this happened or that happened or that happened, I'm upset. I was so prepared. I was so prepared and ready that didn't negatively impact me or not as bad as it did other people. And I'm upset. I'm disappointed or upset in myself because I was that prepared. Never heard anybody say that, Tony. So the more we can be proactive, the more we can prepare ahead of time. Most people will need some form of care. Statistically, it's proven that, I think it's a married couple, age 65 or older, there's higher than a 50% chance that, I think it's 60% chance or more, that one of them's going to need care in their home or in a nursing home. And so the older we age, there's just all that much more chance that you're going to need some form of care, and those costs can be extremely devastating, as you know from your personal family with mom and dad. They can be very expensive. They can be very, very devastating, and especially if we're fortunate, those individuals are fortunate to live longer, well, those expenses just keep adding up.
Yeah, they really do. And we've talked about it before on the show. I've mentioned my parents, and I don't need to go into all that, but I do need to tell our listeners and viewers, reiterate what you said, and you've seen this too so many times with people you've worked with. The cost of long-term care is, I don't know, another word, horrific. There's just not an extreme enough word to use, because it's, $12,000 a month in most cases for full long-term care, where you need skilled nursing, That's nursing home. That's not, there's independent living, then there's assisted living, and then there's long-term care. And, there are places where you can age in place and do it across the board, or you can try to do all those things in home now, which is becoming more popular. But any way you slice it, it is expensive. And there are ways to prepare ahead for that. And I know that's something that you make a part of your financial plans, and people talk about that with you. So that is huge. And that's why we're going to take another break. I know you deal with that and a number of other topics in your book, and your book is called Empower Your Retirement. Plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. Look at, there it is. Empower Your Retirement, Jason Cryderman. We're going to give away 10 copies of the book. And listeners and viewers, this is not a trick. That's a real book. It's solid. It's awesome reading and a lot of great information, very educational. It will help you plan for retirement or even in retirement. All you have to do to get a copy, you're not going to pay any postage. There's no obligation. Just be one of the next 10 people to contact Great Lakes Investment Advisors. You can do that a number of ways, but you can call 989-835-7203. That's 989-835-7203. Or you can contact Great Lakes through the website, greatlakesinvestmentadvisors.com. That's greatlakesinvestmentadvisors.com, and contact them. They'll get back out to you, and then you can set up that schedule either an appointment in person or request the book be sent to you. So you have to mention you heard about it on the show. That's the catch. All you have to do is mention you heard about it on the show. We appreciate you listening, and you viewers out there who watch it on YouTube. And we'll be right back. This is your Financial Empower Hour, and I am your co-host, Tony Shore. Jason, you've talked a lot today about some retirement advice that might not be so good, and a lot of opinions out there that could be wrong or could derail a retirement or your retirement plan. You talked about inflation, debt, getting on top of those things, and then long-term care. People, a lot of times, I won't need long-term care. I don't need to plan for long-term care. That is wrong. If somebody tells you that or you think that, yeah, you do. 2 out of every 3 people, it's almost to that level. If you're 65 or older, odds are about 73% you will need long-term care at some point, and that number is growing. So that's there. What's something else you hear about retirement planning that really makes you cringe, Jason?
Well, so far we've talked a lot of maybe conceptually about different situations or different things that can happen into and through retirement.
Sure.
But I want to touch on real quick, and I don't get into a lot of product discussions on my show ever, as you know, Tony, but sometimes it's good to cover this because here are 2 of them, 2 products I want to touch on that I've heard a lot over the years where it's just been bad advice, incorrect advice, wrong advice, or not even any advice at all. Just people heard, well, I heard this about that product, so it's not good, it's bad. And I just want to try to help clear that up. Okay. Before I start this, I want to let everybody know out there, I truly don't believe there's any one perfect solution. There's no shiny silver bullet that's just the answer to all cures, right? So, sure. But one of them that we hear all the time is, and I've heard this both ways. I've heard, my annuity is the best investment ever. And then I've also heard annuities are bad. And so I want to spend some time and clear up this thing about annuities, because again, I've been doing this for 24 years, Tony. And as a fiduciary advisor, to me, the product really doesn't matter. It's what is in your best interest in your situation to help you achieve your goals with the highest probabilities of success. And if that's CDs or mutual funds or stocks or annuities or life insurance, you need to be able to look at what are all your choices and options and have someone help you determine what's in your best interest. Because I'll tell you right now, not all annuities are great and not all annuities are bad. Just like not all cars are great, not all cars are bad. Not all the food
Right.
we eat is great. Not all the food we eat is bad for us either. But some of the things that you want to be careful of with annuities are the guarantees, the risks associated potentially, the longevity of the contract potentially, the expense of the contract potentially. So depending on the annuity, just like everything else, just like every mutual fund or whatever else you might own, but annuities are, first of all, full disclosure, annuities are backed by the claims paying ability of each insurance company. So first of all, make sure the insurance company that you're utilizing to back your annuity is reputable. You've heard of them.
A top rated, like A or B rated
Correct.
company. And you only work with the top rated companies, I know, if an annuity fits a particular person's needs. And there's been a lot of changes. Some annuities can be expensive, but some annuities have little or no fees.
Absolutely.
So it does really depend on what you're looking at. And they have gotten more and more competitive. When they first came out, typically you saw high fees, there was risk, but now you have like fixed index annuities that are really popular with the baby boomers when they've headed into retirement. And that is because they got more competitive. You can get them with no fees, principal protection. You can get lifetime, guaranteed lifetime income riders. You can get long-term care riders put on there. There's a lot of things that can be done. So they can be a good tool and reduce income risk, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's,
it depends on the tool you're using, right? I tell everybody all the time, if you had to take out a Phillips head screw out of the wall or something you're working on, would a flathead screwdriver work? It might work, but it's probably not the best tool, right? Or a lot
in many cases it wouldn't. Trust me.
A lot of times it wouldn't work at all, right? But people could go to the toolbox, say it's a tool and it's a screwdriver, so it should work. Well, it's the wrong tool for the wrong job. So, variable annuities might be appropriate for some investors in your goals. And the flip side of that coin is a fixed annuity or a multi-year guaranteed annuity might be appropriate if you just want a decent level guaranteed rate of return with no risk, no fees, or like you mentioned, the index annuity. But again, it all depends on what are you trying to achieve and what tools are in your best interest. And as you mentioned, there's so many different companies out there that offer so many different products or tools. It is important, and here's where I think it's very important for all my listeners and viewers, to work with somebody who's independent, who's not captive, and not limited or restricted by only able to offer 1, 2, or 3 different companies. Because if they're captive or limited to only be able to offer a select number of companies, they may not be able to bring the right tools or solutions to the table for you. Doesn't mean they're bad people are doing the wrong things. It just means they're limited and restricted because they're captive a little bit in what they can offer. So that's where a huge benefit to me and my team and the families we represent is we're truly independent. We're not captive or limited or restricted by any number of companies or tools or products or, what have you. So, but because we've heard that a lot, annuities are bad, annuities are great. Well, I think they're both. If they fit your situation, they're great. If they don't, they're probably bad. Life insurance is another one, Tony. A lot of people think, gee, what the heck do I need life insurance for when I'm in my 60s, 70s, 80s, when I'm retired? Why do I need life insurance? Well, a lot of times people overlook the spousal income replacement for when one spouse dies. What happens to the other income, like the Social Security, the pension, whatever other income might be coming in? And a lot of times that is lowered, if not cut and eliminated altogether. So what are we going to do for our surviving spouse to put income back into their lifestyle? Also, we talk about the taxation. A lot of people aren't aware life insurance benefits, number one, are generally tax-free when someone passed away and the beneficiary inherits the life insurance, which can be great for a spouse to get tax-free money. And it can be great for legacy planning goals where you want to pass money on to the kids and grandkids or whoever that might be. You could pass that on to them 100% tax-free with no income tax bill at all through life insurance. And that's a positive thing when we talk about taxes, is life insurance death benefits are normally tax-free. But a negative thing, Tony, that a lot of people aren't aware of is what income bracket might a surviving spouse find themselves in after a spouse passes away? And a lot of people are blown away. They're amazed. They're astonished. They can't believe it. And I challenge all my viewers and listeners to go out there and look at the federal tax brackets, income tax brackets. Look for married filing jointly and see where the income bands are and what the tax brackets are. And then take a look for a single filer. So if you're widowed and you're a single filer, take a look at how much that income can drop drastically, but the tax brackets in a lot of cases do not. So people find themselves when they're widowed making a lot less income, but still in a higher tax bracket than what they thought they'd be in. So that's another spot where life insurance can, kind of help ease that burden a little bit. But again, as a fiduciary, Tony, I do not believe that any one product is right for anybody, like an annuity or life insurance or having all your eggs in CDs or all your eggs in stocks. That's why it's very important you work with a trusted fiduciary advisor. I really stress working with somebody who's independent. They're not captive or not restricted or limited to just a handful of companies or tools, to truly make sure you're looking out for what's in your best interest and you're covering all your bases. I can't hear you, Tony.
What about people who say, I don't need life insurance after I retire? What about that?
Yeah, a lot of people think that, I don't need life insurance. Well, you may not need it for a death benefit unless maybe your goal or objective is to leave your spouse with additional money, tax-free, or for income replacement, or you want to leave it as a legacy wealth transfer to the next generations. Or if you utilize newer insurance products that have what they call living benefits. So this is where you don't just, yes, there's still a death benefit there, and when I say newer, these are newer within the last 5-10 years or so.
Yeah.
It's not term insurance. It's not employer and sponsored insurance. It's not insurance you've had for more than probably, like I say, 5-10 years or so. It's newer insurance. It's improved, right?
Right.
Evolution,
it's a hybrid policy, right?
Yeah. Evolution of everything over time. Most everything improves from the clothes we wear to the cars we drive, gets better. Well, there's life insurance now with living benefits. And what that means is, Tony, you can actually access the policy for income in retirement tax-free. This is where a lot of retirees are utilizing life insurance not as a death benefit anymore, but as a living tool, as an alternative asset class, like a stock, a bond, a mutual fund. They're actually using living benefit life insurance as an investment tool so they can pull money in retirement tax-free. That's an awesome, awesome feature. Even better, when we talked a couple minutes ago about long-term care, even better is these policies, you can access up to 95% of the death benefit, not the cash value, but the death benefit, tax-free in retirement if you need long-term care. So now we talk about the cost, as you mentioned, Tony, it could be $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 a month. You want to pull that out of your IRA and pay income tax on that, might throw you in a higher tax bracket. Now you're paying 20% or more in income taxes just to get money to pay for a spouse or family member into a nursing home. Or if you had a life insurance with living benefits, you could pull maybe that same amount or at least some of that amount out of the life insurance policy, 100% tax-free. So awesome benefits, awesome reasons why some people should consider having life insurance inside their portfolio. But again, it's not right for everybody. But I think you should work with somebody who's open-minded and been through the trenches many a times, that know that these are choices and options that are out there. Let's see if they make sense in your situation. Let's see if they're right for you. If so, great. We're not captive, limited, or restricted at all. But if they don't make sense, at least we had that discussion. Move on and do what's best for you.
All right. Well, hey, we're going to give away some more copies of that book right now, Jason. We're going to give away 10 more copies of Empower Your Retirement by our very own Jason Cryderman. Good job on the book, Jason. It's great. It's helpful. And for our listeners out there, if you want a copy sent to you at no charge, no obligation, just be one of the next 10 people to contact Great Lakes Investment Advisors and say you heard about it on the weekly show. You heard about it on your Financial Empower Hour. And that number is 989-835-7203. That's 989-835-7203. 888-866-7803. And this is your Financial Empower Hour. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. I'm here with our host, Jason Cryderman. And Jason, you've been talking about some things that you hear from people you meet with or other people out there, statements that just aren't true when it comes to retirement planning and things they should be thinking about retirement and strategies they should be taking. We've touched on quite a few today. We've got time for a couple more. What's something else that you want to talk to our listeners about?
Yeah, I think there's three more, Tony. If we got time to get them in yet in this last segment, there's three more I'd really like to kind of hit on because they're kind of, some of them people think of every day and some of them you don't think of at all because we're just kind of, let's just say, living life, right? And so one of them is, I'll figure it out when I retire. I'll figure it out when I get there, right? Hey, I'm not retired yet. I'm not retiring for 10 years. I'm not retiring for 5 years. Well, I'm retiring next year. When I'm retired, I'll have all kinds of time on my hands. I'll sit down and figure all this stuff out when I'm retired. I'm not going to boggle myself down or worry about it before I retire. Well, again, in being a fiduciary advisor for 24 years now, Tony, I've worked with a lot of families, and the most families investors that have the most successful retirement are the ones that have planned ahead of time. They've prepared. And so many decisions that we make are irreversible and it can cost a lot of money to change. So we got to make sure that when we make these decisions, they're the right decision, whether that's when to retire, when to take Social Security, when to take pension, the things you do with your investments, because a lot of those changes, they're either impossible or pretty hard to change or very, very expensive over the long run. So the best retirement outcomes have come when you've been planning years in advance and not reacting after problems arise. So if you think about my book, Tony, again, it's called Empower Your Retirement, Plan for the Best, Prepare for the Worst. And that's what every family I've met for 24 years, I've tried to help them do. Every family and every investor, whether they choose to hire me or not, that's totally a choice they get to make. And that's totally up to them. But every person I meet, I try to help them plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. And the more planning and preparing you can do ahead of time, generally the more successful you're going to be, the better off you're going to be. So if you're planning your retirement, you're planning for the best, but you're preparing for the what ifs, right? What if the market goes down? What if interest rates go down? What if I need health care? All these what ifs, you prepare for the worst. And the better you can plan and prepare ahead of time, Tony, generally the most successful you're going to be. And when those unfortunately bad things do happen, you will find yourself in a lot better position than the people that didn't prepare. So the whole I'll figure it out in retirement. I gotta stress, I can't stress enough, right? Don't wait. The 5 to 10 years before retirement are the most crucial times. They can truly make or break how successful your retirement will be. Another one is, I don't need a written plan. Well, this goes hand in hand with, I'll figure it out when I get there. I truly believe you do need a written plan. Without a plan, decisions are usually emotional. They're usually reactive. How do you plan for the best, prepare for the worst, if you don't have written plans that say, these are the best things I want to prepare for, and here's how I'm going to be prepared, planning for, but here's the worst things. What are they? Write them down. If and when they happen, here's what I'm going to do. If you don't write that down, and not only just write it down, review it. Review that written plan, even if it's on a bar napkin. Review your written plan and update it. Don't be afraid to say, my plan's going to change. That's okay. Written plans help improve confidence, help improve discipline, and they definitely help improve long-term outcomes and the success rate of your retirement. So don't wait until you retire and have a written plan. And again, plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. You don't only want to think about, sunny days, because we don't always just have sunny days, Tony. We've often said on the show many times, the forecast looks pretty good, but bring an umbrella. Bring an umbrella, be prepared. And so I think that's very important. Last one we'll kind of touch on here is, I think it's a very important one, our investment fees. Okay. So, and again, at Great Lakes Investment Advisors, we are fee-based fiduciary advisors. But I've heard some people out there say, well, the fees really don't matter. The commissions don't matter. When and how much I pay really doesn't matter. And as long as I'm making more at it, well, I want you really to focus in on, what are you paying? Number one, are you getting your money's worth, right? If you're getting your money's worth, things are probably okay. But a lot of people aren't aware of all the fees they're paying, Tony. And that's
Right.
that's one of the things that we offer in that second opinion is a portfolio stress test. Inside that stress test is an x-ray on everything you're doing today, just on the fees. What are the fees? What are the commissions? What are the transaction costs? All the fees involved. Because when you start adding up, well, 1%, 0.5%, 0.25%, you start adding those fees up, even small fees can compound, especially over time. Every 0.5%, every 1% of extra fees and costs can be hundreds of thousands of dollars over retirement. And if you have an annual fee on top of a commission, on top of a transaction cost, those fees you need to know about. What the heck are you paying? That bottom line is, what are you paying? You got to figure that out first. And then you got to look back and see, well, what am I getting? Am I paying for a Cadillac but getting a Buick, or am I, what are you paying for and what are you getting? That's extremely important. And again, that all goes to do with, well, I'll figure it out when I get there. Well, if you don't assess and analyze your costs over the next 5 to 10 years or more, how many thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars could you be throwing away in unneeded, unjustified fees or commissions? And if you don't have a written plan that says, here's where I'm comfortable being in my fees or commissions, and here's what's reasonable, and here's what I'm going to get for it. If you don't have that written down, how can you review that on a quarterly basis to make sure you're within those parameters and make sure you are achieving your goals with the highest probabilities of success? And that's the only way I can think about, Tony, to help families, help retirees plan for and have the most awesome, best retirement ever. Plan ahead of time, be prepared, plan for the best, prepare for the worst, analyze all these things, work with trusted advisors. I recommend fiduciary advisors. I recommend independent advisors, so they're not captive, limited, or restricted. And as a fiduciary, by law, they are held to look out to your best interest. You put a team together like that, Tony, and I truly think you will have the highest probabilities of success.
Exactly. And make Great Lakes that team. All you have to do to set up a no charge, no obligation consultation with Jason and his team there at Great Lakes is call 989-835-7203. If you have questions, if you want to get an opinion on where you're at, if you want to get a written plan in place or get a second opinion, just pick up the phone and call 989-835-7203. Jason, great show. Listeners and viewers, that does it for today's episode of your Financial Empower Hour with our host, Jason Cryderman.